All right, as you can see, I've got Ethan spreading some material on the edge, and what he's doing is called a smooth edge. He's going to spread it on there and then drag it smooth, and then I'm going to come behind him with a trowel. If you notice, on one side of this counter, we've actually done a stippled look. The other side, we're going to do a smooth edge. The one thing I want to make sure everybody who's watching this video understands that this is not going to be a showpiece in somebody's home. This countertop right here is here for one reason only, and that's to be a giant sample board for this video. Now that the second trowel coat of the ECS system is dry, it's time for the coloring process. In each one of your sample kits, you will get a manual. The manual contains different color combinations, as well as all the mix ratios for the colors. 90% of the colors are 10 milliliters of color to 20 ounces of water. Ethan and Ryan are actually mixing up the first color. We're going to be doing the beach stone sample today on this door, so you're going to get a pretty good idea of some of the different techniques that are used. If you notice, Ethan has a syringe. That's how we extract the color from the jars. And again, he's going to extract 10 milliliters of color and inject it into 20 ounces of water. Each sample kit comes with 5 syringes and 15 bottles for the colorants. Now, in some situations, you might want to double up on your colors. And in other words, going from 10 to 20 milliliters of color to 20 ounces of water to give you different tones. Also, the pearl white and the bright white color will normally go 150 milliliters of color to 20 ounces of water. So it's 5 times greater than the normal colors.
Okay? Yep.
Ryan's spraying down a sponged roller. It's basically a C-sponge roller that we use for getting a design on the counter. You can pick them up at most hardware stores. We're going to do a test roll on cardboard to make sure we're getting the look or the pattern that we want, and then they go right to the project. In your ECS manual, we have step-by-step techniques using sponges as well as the sponge rollers to get different looks. We also have recipes to get 6 or 8 different marble, granite, and stone looks using the ECS system. If you notice, this is an ECS recipe. It's telling you step-by-step what Ryan and Ethan are going to do on this door to get the desired look of beach stone. In the ECS manual, there's labeled techniques on how to get these desired looks, from shake speckle to misting to veining, even using the sponge rollers. What Ryan's fixing to do is called a mist, and I want you to notice the technique that it puts down. This is a shake speckle. Ryan's going to show you the technique. Large and small dots, anywhere from eraser size to BB size. And it's going to be a 70% shake speckle across the entire surface. I'm going to walk you through a few of the techniques Ryan just did. he just did what's known as a shake speckle and also misting, and I want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. We use the same pump sprayer, we adjust the nozzle, and we also adjust the trigger pull. And what I mean by adjust the trigger pull, there's no mechanical adjustment. You adjust it manually by how far back you pull the trigger, whether it's wide open or just lightly pumping. And let me show you the difference. Misting is more of a wide open. You see that fine mist? Versus a shake speckle. See the bigger blobs? Misting versus a shake speckle. The only difference between misting and a shake speckle is how much pressure you pull back. If you pull it back fast and hard, you get a mist. If you barely pull it back and just squeeze it, you get what's called shake speckles. The next technique that Ryan and Ethan are going to do on the board is called sponging. It's done with a handheld sea sponge, and they're going to sponge 70% London Gray across the board by hand. I just want to demonstrate this technique so you get a better idea of what they're doing before they do it. Again, you're going to take your bucket, you're going to take your London Gray, mist it to make sure it's coming out correctly, spray your sponge down. You always want to take a couple of test sponges on a board anyway to make sure you're getting the desired look. And it's a good idea when you're doing this to twist your sponge in different directions. If you notice the pattern that it's leaving, that's what they're looking to do to the door. Notice Ryan's also wearing latex gloves. It's a really good idea to do this to protect your hands. The next step is the same technique using a sponge, but with Paris Pearl. We're going to spray the Paris Pearl into the bucket, do a light mist on the sponge, and again, go down and get our modeling. The next step is going to be a shake speckle of black to kind of fill in some of the blank areas. And we're just going to one of the last colors we're going to put on is Stonehenge, and we're going to let this dry. On our sample countertop, we're going to show you how to use some of the tools that are in your ECS manual. The first one is going to be a sponge roller. Then we have a textured sea sponge. And then we also have a small piece of sponge that we're going to use for bringing the veins down over the front of the countertop so it looks like a real piece of stone. We're going to do a number of different looks on this. I've told you already this is going to be a sample countertop. It's not made to look like a showpiece. It's made so I can show you the different techniques we're going to be doing. We're going to shoot streaming striations. We're going to shoot shake speckles. We're going to shoot misting. We're going to go through all the different techniques with the spray bottles on this to give you a better idea of what they should look like in application. We've got our spray bucket on the side, our sponge roller, and a piece of cardboard to do our test roll on. We take the black, make sure it's shaken up, and you're going to mist down your roller. And again, the colors I'm going to use are going to be all over the place. I really want the technique to show more than I want it to look nice for you guys right now. We'll make that counter that we removed from the home look nice. All right, we're going to come across at an angle, up the front. Now I'm going to show you how to use the C sponge. We use these small hand sponges. They tend to curve to your hand real well. You can get them in most hardware stores, whether it's Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot. They all carry them in the paint department. Again, take your test shot, and we're going with a Tuscany taupe this time to work with that black. And yes, you see me spraying my fingers with it. It is water soluble. It will wash off when we're done, so. And again, turning your sponge from side to side, you don't want to develop too much of a pattern. You really don't want it to look like sponge marks down. You want it to look more like a integral part of the stone. Now you're going to notice in some areas, I'm actually going to go a little heavier with this particular technique. Maybe through here, actually put it on a little darker coming down. Now in the manual, when you hear us talk about 70 or 80% coverage, that's about what I've done with this taupe. We would consider this a 70 or 80% coverage. And again, you want to repeat the process on the chiseled edge. Sometimes you may get a drop or a blob that comes out, whether you're using a pump sprayer or even a sponge, even using your roller. If you get a puddle or something that just doesn't quite look right to you, reach out there with a rag, so you can see on this little spot right here, and absorb some of the excess product. All right, using the same technique with the sponge, I'm going to apply some bright white and kind of the same pattern that we were doing before. I'm probably not going to go 70% across the top, more like a 40 or 50%. After that, we're going to follow up with just some shake speckles and some misting, and that should be it for this side of the counter. Again, you want to make sure that when you do something on the top with a color, especially on a chiseled edge, that you bring some of it down in the same places. We're going to apply some Stonehenge, but we're going to use a different technique. We're using the spray bottles that come in your sample kit, and we're going to do what's called a shake speckle. It's where you pull back on the trigger very lightly and shake it at the same time. I've adjusted the nozzle, take a test shot into your bucket, and you want blobs to come out about the size of BBs. I'm going to show you on this piece of cardboard. This is what we're looking for. That's a shake speckle. When doing a shake speckle, you always want to hold the gun up high and just keep the gun moving. Remember, you can always stop spraying. Spray a little bit out, have a look at what you've done, and then repeat the process if you need a little more. The next color we're going to put on is Belgian chocolate. We're actually going to put it on the same technique with the spray bottle in a shake speckle, but larger droplets. We're also going to concentrate the Belgian chocolate right through this one area. Not so much across the whole board, but we're going to try and create just a zone with the Belgian chocolate. And again, now at this point we want to come around to the face. Do you see how much of this chocolate we've got across the top? I'm actually going to put a little more coming back through there. Fan it out. Now I don't have much in here. Now that is where your little sea sponge comes into play. We're actually going to take this little sea sponge, spray some of this Belgian chocolate on it, because I don't want to splatter too much and have this fogged. At this point, we're going to come just through here with some of the Belgian chocolate. In your manual, there's several recipes to create different looks. You're going to notice in the process of some of those recipes, it'll tell you to stop and let that coat dry before continuing to the next step. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to let this Belgian chocolate dry, let the board kind of stable out a little bit, and then we're going to go to the next step. At the rally, we talked about a new product that we were going to be bringing online, and that is our Mineral FX. We're going to be using shimmering copper Mineral FX on this countertop. I just want to show you what it looks like. We've got two copper colors. We've got shimmering copper and regular copper. It is a metal that we mix with water, 2 spoonfuls to 10 ounces of water, and we're going to spray it across. It actually gives it a mineral effect, hence the name Mineral FX. It gives it more of that natural granite shine. All right, using the Mineral FX, we've got 20 ounces of water, so we're going to put about 4 spoonfuls of the Mineral FX in there. There we go. I'm going to spray the entire board down with Copper FX and droplets about the size of a nickel or a dime, so we've got a natural copper mineral look going through the board. You ready? That's bigger. I'm going to put quite a bit of this on there because when we go over it with some of the other colors, it will tone it down. One of the application techniques in the manual is called streaming striations, and then there's speckled striations. We're going to do both, but I want to show you the difference between the two. Streaming striations are when your dots hit, let me get it, when your dots hit and slide. You see how they're making that slide? Versus a speckle is when they hit and fall, making the same line. See the difference between the two? Now that we've got our streaming striations coming at an angle across this, we're going to take our sponge again. We're going to mist it down with a little bit of black, and we're going to create the look of this black coming down through this stone. A little bit in here, but more concentrated in other areas. The next application is going to be the same technique, Spanish Sierra Tan. We're going to do it in a shake speckle striation across the board. Similar to the streaming striation, but we don't want it bleeding out so much. Always take a test shot in your bucket, take one on your cardboard, get a good look at what you got going on, and away we go. The next color is going to be Stonehenge. Same technique, streaming striations, going in between the last two colors we just put down. The final color we're going to put across the right-hand side of our sample counter is going to be Paris Pearl. Again, we're going to use the streaming striation, so this whole corner of the counters only had streaming striations across the top with just different colors, and we're going to do it across 10 to 20% of the board in a coverage rate in a fan motion while the counter's still a little damp. And again, any color that you put across the top, we're going to bring in with a sponge and bring a little bit down the front. Now, for the center section, we're going to come across with a shake speckle of Stonehenge mixed at our normal ratio. Then we're going to take Sierra Tan and Stonehenge at a double ratio and put it down in heavy areas and then vein through it with the Paris Pearl. We're going to take our Stonehenge in a mist. This is misting. Spanish Sierra Tan. And while they're still wet, come through them with the Paris Pearl, creating the veins. This is streaming or veining, as you're going to see in your manual. I'm also going to add a little Stonehenge up this side. Again, you've got to do this while it's wet. Maybe a little bit up in here, so it's not such a straight look. Streaming striation, which gives it more of a marbling effect. A little bit up the center of this as well, a little bit. It's very important that where your veins come across the top, you take the same color and bring them down using your sponge. So it looks like the vein is going through the stone.